Welcome into the Rowdy Studios. My name is Bassmasters, and that, my friends, Bob Pockrass of SceneDaily.com, the man we turn to for all our expert analysis.
You got to turn to someone, don't you?
Yes,
and without Buzz, where's no
Buzz? Well, I had to drop some dead weight, dude.
Okay, oh, come on.
I'm just
He'll
kidding.
be back.
He'll be back, I know. You can't get rid of the guy. It's like a cold. You just can't get rid of him. Let's talk about Dover coming up. We're 2 races into the chase. What has changed for you, Bob Pockrass, after 2 races? Obviously, Tony Stewart, the big story of the chase so far.
Tony Stewart is the big story of the chase, and people talk about his momentum, and I say there are 2 good things about the momentum. First off, he's obviously just feeling better about where he's at, and he was so bad at Dover in May that if he's bad this week, you know, he can survive.
He can take it in stride.
Right. Yeah, it's not something that's going to derail him for the entire season.
Right, and he'll have a good chance to get back on track at Kansas.
Exactly. So,
would you expect that to happen? I mean, I'm thinking this might be a little bit of a comeback to earth weekend for Tony.
Might be, but then, you know, he won Kansas a year ago. So I think he's got to be, and he won the last mile and a half. And Chicago and Kansas are usually pretty similar.
All right, now on the flip side, you look at Jimmie Johnson. Chicagoland, a little bit of a bad break, good speed. New Hampshire, for maybe 2/3 of the weekend, seemed to be pretty fast too. Everything's lining up good. You get in the race and, you know, he's not that fast. He can't get track position. He doesn't even like the positive cheerleading on the radio. What's going on with Jimmy, and how important does this weekend become for him?
Well, it's an important weekend. Speaking of people who won last year, he won this race a year ago. And, you know, he's got to climb a little bit of a hill now in the chase. And he's done that before, but I don't know whether he's ever had to climb over 9 guys. And I think it's going to be tough for him. Last week was one of those weeks where typically he'd still finish 10th, just like he did at Chicago, and he didn't do that.
Right. Now, talk to me about the Roush cars, Carl Edwards and Matt Kenseth. Obviously, Carl's hung in there pretty well at the first 2 races. Matt, bad break or just not good enough fuel mileage to do well at Chicagoland, but kind of able to come back and get maybe a better finish at New Hampshire than we're used to seeing out of him. Now they go to Dover. How important is this race for those 2 guys? You
know, when I think of Dover, I always think of that race, was it 3 or 4 years ago, where all the Roush cars were just running side by side. It was a great race, and you know, this is one of those, you know, as Carl talked about last week. Carl said you got to stay in contention, and then the last 3 or 4 weeks is kind of really when you put it all, I would say, put it all out on the line, where you make your decisions based on where you are in the standings, but you can really, you know, take more calculated risks than you do right now. And I think that's what they need to do at Dover.
And last guy I'll ask you about, Brad Keselowski. How did he finish 2nd at New Hampshire? Where are the smoke and the mirrors? I want to get a hold of these things. I don't understand how he's doing it.
Well, if you're Brad Keselowski, do you go to the casino at Dover and use this
Do you waste your luck in the casino, or do you save it for the track?
Right. Now, I mean, luck when preparation meets opportunity, right? So, bad car or not very good car in practice or qualifying for Brad, but they're able to work on their car throughout the weekend and have it pretty good during the race, and they were able to take advantage of the track. They were able to play the track position game and then take advantage of it. And they went like I mean, they still had to, even though it was hard to pass, if he didn't have a good car, he would not have been able to stay near the front. So, I mean, that's a championship-type weekend.
I agree. If you take a bad car and you make it into a good car, and then you make all the right strategy calls and you make no mistakes in the pits, who does that sound like?
It sounds like Jimmie Johnson.
It does. I love the chemistry between Paul Wolfe and Brad Keselowski. I think it's something special.
I love it. You know, can it last for 8 more weeks? Well, last week I was saying, can it last for 9? The week before I was saying, can it last for 10?
I agree.
So
we'll see
I
what
guess
he does.
Still,
Dover's
still
another tough track for him, but they've all been sort of career best runs here in the last month and a half to 2 months for Brad Keselowski.
Yeah, I don't think you can take past history.
You really can't.
Total consideration with him.
All right, that's Breaking Down the Chase with Bob Pockrass of SceneDaily.com. My name is Bassmasters, and we'll see you next time.
Rowdy.com. Say it like it is.
Say what like it is?
Rowdy.com.